Hello everyone, this is Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo, and welcome to another leg of my around the world flight for bringing attention to those men and women that fight for the freedom of their nations around the world. I started this one on Veterans Day in the United States on the 11th of November 2014. This leg is being flown on November 13th, and this leg is totally 100% a selfish leg. I landed at first flight because I figured that would be a wonderful place to start because it is a flight around the world, and why not start off by flying out to Kitty Hawk, the site of the first flight of the Wright brothers Wright Flyer. Well, today I am looking at starting a new way of doing this video. It's only 1 or 2 episodes into it and I'm already changing things up. The main reason is that I want to bring it into line with what we, the viewers, and me, the creator, might want to do. So the selfishness of this is to fly over the Chesapeake Bay area, where when I was in the Navy as an enlisted woman, I was at Norfolk Naval Air Station, I was at Oceana Naval Air Station, and I was on the USS Guadalcanal. So all 3 of my assignments were in that area. I was with VF-101, the Green Reapers, which were a RAG squadron. As a reservist, I would be out there probably once every 3 months and in the summer for 2 weeks. Anyhow, this one's going to end where I attended Officer Candidate School for the Marine Corps, and that will be at Quantico Marine Corps Air Station. Now, that isn't exactly where I did OCS, but that's the closest that I can get. That was the helicopter base. I was out there a couple of times to once get into an Osprey, 3 times get into what the Marines affectionately called a Sea Knight, I believe it was. It was the Chinook, which was in the Army. It was the navalized / Marine Corps variant of that. And essentially what we did was just training, and it would either bring us into an area where we would be doing play war games, or it would we actually repelled out of it a couple of times. That was pretty fun. But that's what I'm doing. So I've got the aircraft started. I'm currently looking up all of the weather information. It's going to be a crappy flight. The ceiling is low, the wind is high. We're going to be flying this one at a very low altitude, about 1,500 feet all the way, which is horrible for gas consumption, but good for viewing what's around us. So I'm going to skip ahead from all of this wonderful stuff that I'm doing as a pre-flight over here and just get to the point where we take off and start talking to you from there. So let's roll, okay? So we're going to be taking off here. Something different, I have a set of CH Pro pedals. I decided to use them since I wanted better control with the rudder. And you can tell right now that I'm not really having it, but if you see the flag as it was, the windsock, it was almost fully extended and coming off the edge of the runway. That's why I was having a little bit of an issue. I should have been going up with a little bit of aileron, and I didn't. So you can see the ceiling in front of us is pretty low. I'm using accurate weather models, so I'm flying in what would be real life weather. Of course, they don't know exactly where real life clouds are. It's procedurally generated based on what the weather reports are. So I'm going to turn right on to my course, get everything trimmed, set, and then I'm going to get into the flight computer and enable the autopilot. Now let's face it, I could fly this one manually, but with the wind the way it is right now, I would have a hard time trying to get this done. I'm having problems with ATC in the X-Plane 10, and I have to do a little bit more research on it. The ATC doesn't seem to allow me to call what would be actual real-life ATC frequencies. I don't know if I need an add-on or if I've got something not installed correctly. Sorry for the papers in the background. I'm looking at some notes from this flight to see what I remember. I have a much better headset now from Razer, the Kraken, and I'm going to try to attempt to do some real-time commentary and switch back and forth between that for now on. So we're going pretty well so far. Turning. Oh, this is an area where I found that my pedals weren't actually centered, and I needed to fix the null zone of the pedals and the rest of the equipment that I'm using, because I was having an issue with there always being a little bit of input on my right aileron and on my right rudder. So by setting this up, I was able to get that fixed. There we go. You can see that already. Now, at this point, I'm just fighting the wind and trying to keep us down below 1500. Ceiling is somewhere between 1700 and 2000, depending on where you are. It's kind of a disgusting day out there. And here I am just adjusting it a little bit more. You'll see that I come back and I do this a couple of times. Click it. There we go. You can see the movement in that bottom slider. Alright, and this is what I'm talking about. I have a graphical glitch here. This is, it shouldn't go white and, you know, clear like that. There should be a transition, and you'll see a better transition later on. The flight was not too long. It was just over an hour. Like I said, the biggest problem I had with it was ATC. I should have been calling ATC at this point, and I couldn't get any of the frequencies over here to answer me. You can see there's the tower frequency in there at 118.9, and 119.55 is the departure and approach frequency for this area. It's just not picking up. I hear nothing. Like I said, I'm wondering if there is a big difference in ATC in this from Flight Simulator X and what I'm finding in Prepared Professional. Prepared Professional definitely has a much better air traffic control system in it, but I have problems with that one also, where I don't get the voice coming through. All I get is the words coming through. I'm gonna have to fix that one also. ATC is going to be very important on this one, because there are going to be legs of this journey that are going to be in full bad weather. Let's face it, I'm crossing the North Atlantic in the late fall. That's just not a good thing to do. Well, that will be late fall by the time I get to Newfoundland and then over to Iceland or Greenland, whichever one I could fly. That's going to be a long flight, and I'll probably do that one on a stream and then just post highlights like I'm doing here. But like I said, I'm going to try to do, for now on, I'm trying to set my vertical speed indicator here. I'm going to try to do, for now on, the commentary as I'm flying and bop back and forth between post and during commentary. Live, real-time commentary and post commentary. So at 1600 feet, like I said, I got to get it down. And I've got to make sure that I keep that barometric pressure, the altimeter, set correctly. Alright, since there's nothing fun to see here for now, I'm just going to bop ahead a little bit from here. So please forgive me. There's our in-flight map, but I'm going, like I said, please forgive me, but I'm not going to give you the whole hour flight here. I think besides me being bored, I think you all will be bored. Okay, we moved a little bit further along the trip. I'm just trying to get all the radios set up and still playing with ATC a little bit here. It's not really getting, it's not really, well, let's put it this way, it's really pissing me off. I have to fix this, and I'm going to say it many times through this. Scenery here is from Ted's Scenery. I think there's a little bit more to that website, and I will definitely post it below if you care. Just loving this plane. It's kind of cool looking. I know I've said that a couple of times, but I'm going to keep saying it. It's going to be wonderful that this thing is flying around the world. Look at us scooting below the ceiling. Just amazing, right? The graphics inside of X-Plane 10 have been so much... Well, they've been upped. They've upped the ante so much over what 9 was and what 10.1 and 10.2 was, This is X-Plane 10.3. I'm just very impressed with what's going on here. You know, I was a little bit apprehensive about buying this product because I know damn well that flight simulation is boring. But you know what? In the world of Star Citizen, which is a game that I will be playing a lot, this is going to be no different than flying routes throughout the galaxy where you're doing trade. The only difference between this and Star Citizen, besides one's in space and one's in real atmosphere, one's kind of realistic and the other one's kind of sci-fi, the only difference is that you may be jumped by pirates or NPCs or players that want to kill you and steal your loot, steal your stuff, steal your cargo on the way. And that is not going to happen in this game, folks. No weapons, nothing gonna stop us from going. Look at the clouds, look at this. It's so realistic, and I'm going to be doing a lot of out of the plane for this one because it is post-commentary. Alright, let's jump ahead a little bit more. Let's see if we can get closer to the Chesapeake Bay area. Okay, we've jumped ahead just a little bit. We have Norfolk Naval Air Station coming up in front of us under the nose of the aircraft. To our right is Oceana, and all around here are going to be different places where the ships are berthed. We're actually probably a little bit further west than I thought we were going to be, so everything that actually I'm telling you about is a little bit more over to the right. Now, Quatico MCAS Marine Corps Air Station is a single strip made for helicopters and very light aircraft. I've seen some Harriers there. I've seen some small planes there that look like they were GA aircraft. Maybe they have a flight club on base or something. I'm not sure. But they have a very small runway. You don't expect to see anything bigger than a light aircraft or a Harrier. Helicopters, of course, don't need that big of a runway, and neither does the Osprey. So that's going to be something to keep in mind as we're flying in. The good news is that we can set ourselves up for a straight-in approach because we are VFR and because the wind is pretty much blowing almost at our nose. At one point we'll make a little bit of a turn to the left and then a little bit of a turn to the right to line up on the runway, and when we do, we'll just have a 30-degree off-nose crosswind at 8 knots or 10 knots. So we will have a little bit of a crosswind, but not much. The gusts are up to 15 though, so we will have to watch that. I think by the time we get there though, it should be a little bit calmer. The flight itself, this one, I was looking out the window quite a bit and I keep on skipping over some of the parts, so I will move you up to where I start doing that so you can see the different scenery. Now this is the Chesapeake Bay area, and there's a whole bunch of rivers that come together over here and dump into the bay. And of course the bay empties out into the ocean, so there's a whole lot of coastline over here, and beautiful coastline that is. I would love to see somebody take on an accurate depiction of the landscape over here at some point, because this is one of the most beautiful areas of the country to fly over that's flat. Shorelines, coastlines are always pretty cool to fly over. Of course, I'm always going to say the most beautiful area to fly over is my own, but I've never done any kind of mountain flying over in the Rockies. I'm sure that would be gorgeous. I've flown upstate New York. I've flown up to Niagara, by the falls. I've flown up through the New England area, and everything was green and covered with trees, but all you can see for miles around was just gorgeous scenery, just like untouched by man scenery. That's whenever you went upstate New York. When people hear the word New York, New Jersey, they think like the city, and they think it's bustling with people. But there's so much untouched landscape in New England, in New York, and New Jersey that when you fly over it, it just looks like miles and miles of untouched, uncultivated, oh God, still virgin land. Makes you wonder. I hope to God we never get so big that everything gets taken over by humans. lot of beautiful spaces in this country, and I'm sure I'm going to see them in the rest of the world sometime in my life. Virtually, I'll never get a real depiction of what's going on in real life. Let's take another jump ahead. We're cutting through this one pretty fast, let me tell you. And another look at the map to see where we are. Still got a ways to go. Not much in front of us. Major airports are over to the left. Chesapeake Bay over to the right. We're flying up one of the rivers that empty into it. And then we go. More cloud cover coming down. Trying to give you a look of how dark it's getting and ominous. At this point I was starting to go, oh my god, is it going to start raining? It might start raining, and that would just be bad because it's really cold outside and raining, and they were supposed to be dropping into the 30s, which would have meant having to make sure that I had my de-icer on and other things of the sort. It's a really fun flight, this one. Now the next one, I have a decision to make because I'm going to be in the Quantico area. Do I fly off course? I've been trying to fly up the coast and fly towards Gettysburg, which would be one of the bloodiest battles in American history. There were so many in the Civil War where just thousands of people died, tens of thousands. Gettysburg, Fredericksburg, Petersburg, Antietam, all these cities, all these battles were just devastated the population of this country, of young men that were fighting a war that was just, well, I guess in the end it was just because, you know, it did help free the slaves and it helped reunite the Union again. But again, of course, history, the right to record history goes to the victor, right? So I do believe that it was probably a just war, but just so bloody and so, you know, so many people to die for such something that just should have been the right thing to do. See, I think that the war was probably a war of economics, more so than about slavery, where slavery was the byproduct of that, right? That on our side, or on the north side, they wanted to get rid of slavery, but also, you know, on the south, with doing that, that would have killed their production, right? I don't know much about it. I am a history buff, but the Civil War is one of those things that I need to go back and read a little bit more about. I have so many people's opinions in my head that when I regurgitate them, I don't know what's right or wrong, and I have to really go through them to make sure that I'm not talking up my rear end when I do talk about these things. Let's go. Let's jump again. We've jumped ahead again. We're coming up over the central part of our flight. A part of the flight where we don't have a lot of water around us anymore. There's a lot going on. Let's take a look at the map in just a second here. I know it's going to be coming up because I remember this part of the flight. Got to go in. There I go. Look at the map. And you can see where we are. There's some air traffic in front of us. It looks like an airliner. And you're going to start to see where there it is. That's exactly where Quantico MCAS is. Right up in the distance over there. So we're about halfway. So right on the banks of one of the rivers. Getting the information here, trying to see if I could tune the radios and start getting approach control, and it never happens. Here I go trying to file a flight plan. Every airport in this area says approach and departure control are the same frequency, so I keep trying to tune to that. It doesn't work. Like I said, I will figure this one out by the time my next flight, or maybe the flight after that, happens. I'll probably make another flight late tonight because I'll probably be up all night because I feel like crap right now and I need something to do. It's just wonderful, gorgeous scenery. I'm going to try to see how far it is from the North Carolina area to Gettysburg. If it's more than a 2-hour flight, that's going to be out. And I'll just fly up to the DC area, and then from DC to Philadelphia we'll land over by Valley Forge, which is an area where the US soldiers had one of the most trying winters of their lives until the Battle of the Bulge. And then we'll go from there. We'll go to where I used to live, which will be Long Island, and we'll land at Islip. And then I'll do a touch and go over at Gabreski or Suffolk County Airport, which is out on the West Hampton area. And the reason why I'll be touching down there is Islip is where I did most of my flight training. Bayport Airdrome is where I picked up the person, the check pilot from the FAA that actually signed me off my license the first time. And Suffolk County Airport is where I actually did my first solo. So I'll be doing a round-robin trip of those three major airports. Well, little tiny airport and one major and one regional. And then we'll turn north from there and we'll go to Concord. And then Concord, Massachusetts, of course, was the site of the beginning of the Revolution War. I might go up to New London first, though, where the submarine school and sub-base either used to be or still is. I think it moved away from there, but I think that's a good historical site to do. And then up to Concord. And then from Concord, we could visit one of the Air Force bases up in the northern part of the either New York area or the Maine area. If we go to New York and we go to Plattsburgh, it's now a community airport, I believe. Douglas MacArthur actually lived on Plattsburgh Air Force Base for quite a while, and he was one of America's great generals of the Second World War. I'm getting sick, I can't say it. Of the Second World War. That would be a good place to visit. And then from there, I can go up through Canada. Maybe we'll go to Montreal. Battle of Montreal was a big one, and of course we lost. That was where Benedict Arnold tried to take the British out of the northern part, the northern flank of our war. He failed at it, and thus, Canada stayed a Commonwealth of England for quite a while. Until today, they're still a Commonwealth, right? Independent nation, Commonwealth. And beautiful area. I'm sorry, I'm just captivated by the gorgeous scenery over here. You can imagine how boring this would be if I actually played every single minute of the flight, and I'm still playing with the air traffic control, trying to get them to tune into me. Alright, I'm going to jump up a little bit. Let's get closer to the airport, almost on final, okay? If you're quick, you can just make out KNYG right above the nose to the left. Well, not to the left, right above the light. Okay, now you can't because I just lifted up the nose or looked down at the radio stack. I'm still trying to do my best to adhere to what would be real life law and try to get over to the airport, and I keep on looking at the different radio frequencies, and I am just not able to get anything to work right in ATC. Like I said, I gotta see if this will work better. I'm loading X-Plane on my Mac to see if that might help, but we don't know yet. We're gonna find out that later on. So we are headed off to MCAS Quatico, and we should be landing within the next 7 to 8 minutes. Like I said, this is going to be a straight-in approach. We're going to make a left towards the left bank, the west bank of the river, and then we're going to make a right turn right onto final approach. Normally, we would enter into the approach that they want. I think at this airport, you almost always make a instrument approach, and we've got the right GPS system for that. We could just pump in the approach and it will shoot it for us right down to the point where it hits the middle marker. Then we take over and land, but not in this case. In this case, I want to do everything VFR. So you can see where our aircraft is, and there's no traffic around us at this point. Still playing with the radio, still trying to figure out what's going on. Putting in another frequency that I found that might be one that we can talk to. I'll figure this one out if it kills me, I promise you. It won't kill me. This will be an easy landing. At some point in the next few minutes, I'm going to have to give this up because we need to start getting ourselves pointed in the right direction and we're coming up on Quantico pretty fast. Now again, this trip is mainly for me and nobody else. Quantico is the home of the Marine Corps Officer Candidate School, and I attended that back in the summer of 1986. And here we go. Let's just say goodbye. It's not going to happen. Come on, Nikki. It doesn't happen. I could tell you this right now. Stop playing with the radio and start planning your approach. Alright, I guess it's time to plan approach. And now you can see MCAS Quatico just above the lights, where it says lights on the control panel. And you can see it coming across the midline of the dashboard right now, of the control panel. Alright. And we're just going to keep on heading off in this direction, picking up a 45-degree intercept of final. Gonna trim the aircraft, slow it down, pop our flaps, pop our landing gear. Tried one last time to see if I can get the control tower to say it's okay to land. Didn't happen. And we're just gonna start heading our way there. Make this bigger so I could actually read what's going on. 121 knots. I got to trim us down a little bit more so I can drop some flaps in my gear. Let's drop us down to about 110. Taking a look at it, I'm now flying the airplane. It's no longer on autopilot. It's trimmed pretty nice. There's the airport over to our right, just above the altimeter. Coming in on a nice intercept angle. Sky is overcast. We have our altimeter set to 3018, I believe, which was the altimeter for the field at this moment. Looking off to the right, you could see MCAS Quatico just disappearing from view a little bit. I'm trying to look at the indicated airspeed over here and the artificial horizon, see if they're matching up with the instruments, doing a last check. Alright. Gas being fuel, undercarriage down, manifold pressure check, propeller pitch check. This is all done automatically by the plane. Plane's computer pretty much controls the pitch of the props for the flight. So when you're using the throttle in this aircraft, it tends to be changing the load on the prop, in other words the pitch, and not the engine itself. I didn't know that. And looking around, looking for the the pitch, the prop pitch controls, it just didn't exist. And I looked it up, and it seems like this particular aircraft is much easier to fly because it does all that for you. Still playing with the radios, hoping that I will get them before I actually finish this turn to final. I'm turning final and playing with the radio at the same time. Just stupid. I should just be watching where I'm going. I don't want any of these different legs to end in a crash. Alright, we're on final now. Put the radio away, bitch. Sorry. Here we go. We are now on final, and we're just going to have to keep the aircraft straight. We have a little bit of a crosswind, like I said, that will be blowing us from 050 degrees, so it will be blowing us to the left, blowing us west. We're at 020 degrees, so it's about 8 knots. It was actually 10 knots blowing to 15 at this point. So we've got to point the nose just a little bit to the right, a little bit east. We're crabbing, that's our crab angle as it's called. So we're coming down, and you can see that we're kind of going straight towards the airfield, not straight ahead, right? Now, as we drop below about 500 feet, the wind changes a little bit, and it's because of the effect of the water in real life, that is. I don't know if it's modeled in this game. So we're coming in really nice. Vertical speed is perfect. It's a beautiful approach. Beautiful approach. I'm going to land just to the left of the center line, which was my fault because I was not used to using my pedals. I haven't used them in about 7 years. And I'm supposed to kick. I put in a little bit of aileron, but I'm not seeing it actually do anything. There we go. Now we kick it over a little bit. Oh, it was to the right. And we just squeak right down the runway. That was so sweet, right? Sweet. Alright, so we've got ourselves all cleaned up. Flaps up. Okay. And let's turn onto the taxiway and shut this baby down. And get out and go and enjoy a day walking around Quantico. Right, let's put it away. So this was a pretty easy flight. I like these little 1-hour flights, which means that there may be a lot of them in this trip around the world. I think the maximum time I want to do these is going to be for about 2 hours. It's tough to find things to talk about the whole time when you're doing post-commentary. I'm sure if I'm doing commentary during the flight, it's going to be easier. So I'm going to have to start tweaking my skills at X-Plane and flying to the point of what I used to be like when I was flying pretty much 3 times a week for the Civil Air Patrol and for my own private enjoyment. It's just too expensive to do that today, especially with a daughter in college and 2 13 going on 14-year-old boys. Alright, so we're going to park it over there and imagine that that's where you would tie down a general aviation aircraft at a military installation. So we're going to pull it over here and then kick it around. Here we go. And stop. Stop. Take a look at what's around you and then go again. The wingspan on this thing is just tremendous. It's like a flying glider. Another thing I like about it. There's no lines or parking spots here. We're going to just stop right here. And let's clean up the aircraft and shut down. Alright folks, so as I shut down the aircraft, which in order I don't know what it is in real life, we lock the parking brake, turn off the defroster, turn off the cabin air. We look up. We're going to see other things that we could turn off. We never turn off the strobe or the position lights until your engine is off. So now we're going to look down. I'm going to bring the fuel selector valve. Fuel selector's back. Nope, it's not going to turn off. You're going to move the little red knobs, sweetie. Come on, get it right. Engines are coming down. There we go. We figured it out. Fuel cut off. Check the engines, make sure they're off. Engines are off. Now we're going to turn off the masters. I'm going to turn off avionics. Then we're going to turn off all of our other switches. And of course, our lights. And let's get out of this baby. So folks, that was today's leg. It was KFFA to KNYG, Quantico Marine Corps Air Station. I'm sorry, I got a little bit hung up on that. That is my ship, my airplane for the rest of the mission. With that said, you all be safe out there. I'll talk to you soon.